Hello, Gene.
Well,
How's it going?
it's going pretty good.
Good.
So I just want to tell our listeners before we begin, if you happen
Yeah.
to see a kitty cat walk across Bill's table there, that's
Yeah.
because his kitty cat's in there. And I love cats, so that'll be good.
Yeah, he's behaving right now. He's sleeping on my desk here to the left. We'll see how long that lasts. Anyway, so we posted this a couple days ago out on LinkedIn. We're streaming live on LinkedIn right now, and of course we'll have the episode post production available on the website, YouTube, etc. And but today's topic is exciting, I think, because there he is.
See, there he is.
Is all about personalized nutrition, and we're going to kind of do a little myth busting, right, Gene?
That's right. That's right.
It's a clarification.
It's an area that fascinates me for a number of reasons, and there's a lot of misconception and some misrepresentation about it. So I think it's important to clarify, what this is about, and where things are currently.
Right.
Yeah, as opposed to where they're going to be at some point.
Yeah. Well, specifically our title today is Personalized Nutrition from One Size Fits All to True Precision. We're going to go through the whole spectrum. And I've never seen this done anywhere, Gene, so this was a good idea for us to do this together.
Yeah.
Because we've seen everything that's come down out in the industry, and we'll dig into the details. But first, let's start with a little brain teaser, like a fun personalization puzzle.
Okay.
So here's a Riddler question for you. What's something that everyone has, but it's never the same for any two people?
So unfair because I know this one.
I'm gonna know it.
I do. It's been answered a couple of different ways, but I'm going to answer it this way. Somebody's experience in life, their own experience. You have it, I have it. Not the same, but we have it.
Yeah. Well, it's even more specific than that.
Is it?
Yes. So again, what's something that everyone has, but it's never the same for any two people? And that would be fingerprints.
Oh, well, that's true.
Right?
That's true. That's true.
So this is kind of our metaphor for individuality and health and nutrition, right? It kind of starts us thinking about that because
that's right.
Nothing is truly personalized out there today. So, and that's kind of what we want to go through. So we should start by defining personalized nutrition. So what does that mean to you, Gene?
To me, it means figuring out from both a diet and nutraceutical standpoint, what are the unique elements that I need or any given individual needs for their optimal health and wellness is going to be different than somebody else's. So that sort of in essence is what personalized is to me. How you get there is another story, but that's what that means.
Yeah, I guess for me, it's I think the promise of personalized nutrition, it really started years ago. If I remember, it was Jeffrey Bland at an expo, an education session or something where that's when saliva DNA testing came out, right?
Yeah.
And it was, I don't even remember what year it was, but it was some time ago. And this was going to be like the future of personalized nutrition in the supplement space.
Yeah.
Well, that was the vision, but the reality was something quite different, in my view. So
yeah, indeed. And interesting, just because I mentioned this to you, but for our audience, I just recently completed coursework in Nutrigenomics,
right,
of the Nutrigenomics Institute, and fascinating area of in understanding, looking at the totality of your genes and looking at your genotype and looking at a number of factors. It's certainly possible to use that as one of the components, a major component possibly in creating personalized nutrition. But it really requires some expertise. People can't do that one on their own. They got to have training in it, or they got to work with some kind of a healthcare professional. They got to work with some kind of a group. It's not a slam dunk by any means.
Right. And we'll see that once we get in kind of to the spectrum, and you'll start to think about the companies out there who are promoting personalized nutrition. You'll see where they fall on the spectrum, actually. So I think it's good to have that framework. And by the way, today is, I didn't introduce it, but today is another episode in our series on the bioactive insight, which is for consumers primarily, because that's what we're talking about here. So, so again, because consumers are the ones that are looking at that, and if you think about biohacking and all these other things, and people are they're trying to take that approach like that. So, so I think
some biohacking things that lend themselves and others not so much.
That's right. So is anything really truly personalized? That's the question. And has that been achieved?
There's a spectrum, right?
There's a spectrum, right? And so let me share my screen. I shared this in the LinkedIn post, but let me share it again just to give you an idea of where we're going to go here and deep dive this. So, and if you look at the spectrum here for personalized nutrition, it goes everywhere from the left to from really generalized programs all the way to true precision, which is what we're doing with NutriSelect, and we'll get to that later here. But but it's kind of cool, and then you can start to think about the brands out there and what they're doing and where they're going to fall as we go through this. And as we go from left to right, it's going to be less and less and less. In fact, very few on the upper end of the spectrum that are actually doing
that's right. Most of what is out there now calling itself personalized, to my mind, is probably on the lower end of the spectrum. So
it is. It's probably in those first two boxes, actually, to be honest.
So you want to start, or shall I?
Yeah. So let's go ahead and just get started. You want to start with generalized?
Sure. So generalized programs are, again, that lowest level of personalization. That could be questionnaires that somebody might fill out, lifestyle quizzes. It could be bundles that companies or retailers or whomever puts together for people. Product types that are things like, multivitamins for men over 50, as though all men over 50 have the same nutritional needs, which they do not. But it's categorizing, because that's kind of the best you can do at this lower level of generalized programs. So you don't have the specificity you might like, and it's not necessarily based on scientific rigor, like the men over 50, multivitamin. I personally would buy my son, who's 24, a women's multi, because I thought it was a better multi, and it didn't. And there was nothing about it that was that specific to women.
Yeah. And again, it's not based on any scientific rigor. That's true. But if we get into, if we move down the spectrum now, we get into category-based personalization, and I'll walk through that. So that's where now we start to see some segregation based on demographics, let's say, where it's age or women's products or men's products based on gender. It could be for active lifestyle. They have that as well. There's multivitamins for that. This is probably the majority of things out there are in these first two boxes in terms of personalized nutrition. I think what changed, Gene, was that there were some things coming out. I think some marketing folks got kind of clever and wanted to start using this as a positioning. It's kind of like saying something is natural today.
Yeah.
What is that? Right? It used to mean something years ago. Same thing with personalized nutrition. When people, the first who started using that terminology, that vocabulary, that used to mean something, but now it doesn't mean anymore. So that they were trying to do that as a way of differentiating. But again, same thing with category-based personalization. Again, it's very limited. So it's not going to be the same if you look at just age. They have multivitamins for different age segments for men and women. Okay. Is there really any dramatic difference between the nutrients in those? No, not really.
No, not really. When I see it, and sometimes they'll try to differentiate it by creating a kind of pseudo proprietary blend where they sprinkle in some fairy dust and go, "Oh, see, it's just for them." Yeah, does nothing. But
Yeah.
we get to a next step, sort of the, let's call it the lifestyle and symptom-based kind of part of this spectrum. And when you get here, you're getting into some questionnaires, but they're deeper questionnaires, a little more meaningful, and especially when you're looking at wearable devices that track things like your steps, that your sleep,
Like
your
this.
heart rate. And in fact, it's even being used in studies. You know, Bill, that at Nutriland, we just did a study using our somatophytomelatonin, and all the subjects wore the Aura Ring to track their sleep patterns and a number of things, which gave some very good objective data.
Yeah.
You can actually track people. Is better than in some ways it's better than a questionnaire, because it's not based on a person's opinion. It's like it's tracking whether they're sleeping or not sleeping and what's going on. So that is something that leads us closer to some real personalized nutrition. And then you have things like, more tailored stacks of supplements. In this case, tailored meaning you're working with somebody who knows their stuff and can help individualize it. But it's still limited to kind of surface level inputs. But it's definitely a step in the right direction.
Yeah. And I think we're really moving into this number 3 segment on the spectrum more and more, like you just said, with the wearables, because the technology has advanced quite a bit on that, and it's gotten very quantitative and very specific for a lot of different things to look at, and that's going to continue to expand. Well, of course, that's, like you said, it's being used in, if I look at our CRO partners with NutriSelect, Radical Science, Alethio's, Center for Applied Health Sciences, everybody's using these now as part of their studies for supplements. So that's going to, it moves the needle a little bit more down the line. But then the next one leads us into biomarker driven.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing some data from Nutrition Business Journal last year, I think, talking about specifically a pie chart on personalized nutrition. And you had saliva testing, DNA testing, then you had blood tests, of course, microbiome analysis, like taking stool samples. This requires the kits, and people can do it in the home. And that's not new. The saliva test kits came out years ago, literally probably 15 to 20 years ago, I'm thinking. And of course, a lot more is known on the genomics and that sort of thing. So we're going to see more and more of that. It does require, it does get to deeper personalization, but it's more expensive, right? Because
it is more expensive. And to my earlier point, where you can learn a whole lot in terms of one's genetics and the impact that has, gene expression has, nutraceuticals have on gene expression for your genotype, you still have to have somebody that you're working with who understands this stuff. So not only do you have to pay for the price of the cost of the actual analysis, but then you've got to have somebody who can interpret it all and say, here's what it means for you, here's what you need to do. And while that goes a very long way in making it personalized, it's not exactly something that's open to everybody with all levels of, all sizes of their change purse there,
Right. And we're seeing the studies being done today, a combination of using the wearables and the biomarker driven. So there's I just saw the numbers on this. Is over 100 in-home test kits for over 100 biomarkers for in-home test kits that can be done in the home.
That's pretty cool.
You don't have to go to a lab to get your blood drawn and do the analysis. Okay, that has become really sophisticated in that, and I think we're going to see this segment really grow. And as it grows and more adoption happens, we're going to see costs come down.
Sure. Well. I mean, we're even using that kind of stuff now in studies that we do. We're using some of the the kits that are used with subjects, saliva tests and stuff, and it's sent in, and they don't have to go for a blood draw for that. So
Yeah, for example, the study that I'm the PI on for the Alethio's platform, we're just getting ready to launch. We're doing a blood spot test for C-reactive protein.
Absolutely, doing that you could do a saliva test for cortisol. You could do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So again, that's getting more sophisticated. It's still expensive, but that's going to come down. But we're already moving in that space where we're doing clinical research on supplements with those. You want to take the next one, man?
Sure. So now we're talking about biohacking and do-it-yourself personalization, which interesting. I'm going to mention that when I am at Supply Side Global in Las Vegas in October, I'm actually going to be conducting a breakfast education session on Wednesday morning at 9 called Biohacking Longevity, Epigenetic Targets and Formulation Strategies with Proven Nutraceuticals. So in it, I'm discussing this very issue and talking about how to go about formulating products that help to address this using information on gene expression, using biohacking. So so biohacking, for somebody who doesn't completely understand it, is using methods to impact your body in a way that it otherwise might not be impacted, to help you have better health, wellness, longevity. And it could be using some of these tracking devices. It could be using some of the epigenetic or nutrigenomic methods that we mentioned with DNA and saliva and blood spots and so forth. It could be many things. Some people are doing intermittent fasting and calling it biohacking, which arguably it may not be real biohacking, but good for you, but not necessarily biohacking. But there's a lot of different ways that it can be done, and using different kinds of stacks and different kinds of tech, different kinds of tracking together collectively. People are taking more responsibility for their own health and doing this. And there's a lot of community-driven knowledge, and a lot of people doing stuff. And these things are, but again, the advantage is it puts the power in your hand. The disadvantage is, the results are inconsistent because you don't necessarily have real science people involved in helping to guide you, and it's not regulated either. So, it's not a perfect situation, but it's definitely far along the way.
Yeah. And we did an episode on this podcast about biohacking, remember,
Yep.
a few months back. And so if you want to go back, if you're more interested in more details on biohacking and all of that, go check out that episode. But again, it's kind of all over the map. The other one was like polar plunges, right? Going into ice bath, which I've done, by the way. It was pretty incredible. How are you actually measuring the results or outcome for that? There's no way to do that. I mean, no consistent way to do that. I think there's other people that are doing blood work where they're, filtering their blood and detoxing. I've heard of this and some different things like that. Who's that guy that's spending like a ton of money that he's hooking himself up to all this stuff? And I forgot the guy's name that's doing this like ultimate biohacking, spending a ridiculous amount of money, to expand his lifespan. So, yeah. Well, if you got the money to waste to do that, that's not for everybody. But there's certainly and one thing you didn't mention, we should mention here is that this DIY personalization involves modifying gene expression, right? Because
I mean that's what the nutrigenomic angle is all about. Taking using the use of nutraceuticals that can help to upregulate or downregulate your gene's expression of key proteins that have an impact in your life. Just for somebody who doesn't know what that means, imagine your gene makes a protein that's inflammatory in nature. Well, if you can downregulate that, then you make less of that inflammatory protein. That could be a good thing. Or let's say you want to upregulate a gene that makes collagen for you. Hey, that could be a good thing. That can help with your skin and your hair and nails and joints and so forth. Yeah. So
Well, and there is research for intermittent fasting because I've been doing that for years.
Oh, there absolutely is. It's a great thing for people to do as a part of an overall healthy strategy. I'm just being highly technical and saying, but is it biohacking? It's good for you, but is it biohacking?
Right? Or is it
just a good lifestyle practice? If you're following a healthy diet, is that biohacking? Exactly. To me, it would be more like biohacking and a healthy diet would be more like, okay, we did some genetic work and we found out that you have a tendency to put a lot more weight on vis-a-vis because your body's ability to digest carbohydrates effectively and store them as fat effectively is more than somebody else's. So you in particular need a lower carbohydrate diet where somebody else doesn't need. That's true biohacking, as opposed to
Biohacking
just
is when
eating
we
healthy.
measure an outcome and a change, right? So like you did intermittent fasting, you measure before and after your upregulation of BDNF, right? Brain-derived
Sure.
growth factor. That makes sense, and there's research to show that. So yes, you could call that biohacking in that sense, but I think for most of these things, I think it's just kind of a fad. I should say a fad. It's a clever marketing way to talk about biohacking, but where are you measuring the outcomes there? Where's the
That's
result?
it. Yeah.
Well, that
So
leads us into
next one.
yes, the next one, which is true precision, right? Because this is the future, guys. This is where it's heading. It's taking all those things we just talked about and leveraging today's technology. And sorry, this is a plug for NutriSelect.ai, but that's exactly what we're doing. We've developed a platform, our precision supplement intelligence platform. I don't even want to call it personalized nutrition because it's not, because it goes way beyond that. And what we're talking about here is that we're matching science-based matching of individual health profiles to clinically validated nutraceuticals. Okay. It's going to combine lifestyle, biomarkers, any evidence-driven data, and we'll do real-time health progress tracking using the inputs from the user, and it will be truly personalized. Okay, it will end up being truly personalized. So no stack for any one person is going to be the same between users of the NutriSelect app, because and again, that's going to evolve and grow over time, because as it gets more inputs from the user and also from other users on, let's just use an example, let's say ashwagandha and stress, right? It's going to be gathering tons of data across the board from thousands and thousands of users in real time, and recording those results of how ashwagandha is impacting stress. In fact, it's going to guide innovation and also will guide the user to evolve their supplement stack, so to speak, based on the wellness insights or the health progress tracking that's coming from their use of the app. So to me, this is the true North Star for where personalized nutrition is heading. And we're going to lead the charge in that with NutriSelect. It's truly personalization in my view.
You said something there that I think was important. I just want to point it out. We were talking about no two supplement stacks are going to be the same for any person. I was talking to, actually, my sister, who was talking about her and somebody else she knew went through this questionnaire process, some other process where it says, okay, here's your body type, here's this, here's that. And based on your unique body type and everything, here's the supplements you should be taking. So she compared notes with somebody else who had a different body type, and they got exactly the same supplement recommendations to selling the same thing. It's like, really?
Yeah.
So buyer beware, caveat emptor.
Yeah, and exactly. And the other thing that we're going to develop, this is the future of where NutriSelect's going to go as well. Obviously, our first version of the app will launch next year, and there'll be different tiered levels for the app, which will turn on more features. And so the upper level tier is going to be targeting health professionals, the biohackers, people who really are getting into DIY personalization, because they'll be able to do a lot more. We're going to layer in genomics into that, all that kind of stuff. So that's going to gather, and this is already happening in the pharma side in healthcare. They're doing the same thing to make predictions in terms of disease states and things like that. So we're going to apply it proactively to your health, right? And so what makes sense that works for you, and that's going to evolve and change over time. I think this is one of the questions I got early on about NutriSelect from when I surveyed consumers, and they said, once there's a remedial sort of thinking that, okay, I've got my supplements, I'm done, one and done. Well, that's not really true. If you really want to evolve and be proactive about having the best outcome for your health, of course, this is going to just tell you about the supplements. But again, you got to eat right, you've got to exercise, and a spiritual practice. I talk about the Holy Trinity all the time, and plenty of sleep. Because if you don't have enough sleep, you're not getting it's impacting your overall health. So all these things will be part of Nutrisite as an educational tool. And I'm pretty sure we're going to partner with others. I mean, can you imagine if we partnered with MyFitnessPal, for example, that focuses on diet, nutrition, and exercise, right? They just added exercise to their platform as well. They're the leading one, I'd say, in the health and wellness fitness app space. So, we could plug in and have some collaboration there. This is the future for Nutrisite, where we get to that holy trinity where we have all the inputs from all of that, and that'll become even more enriching in terms of the outcomes from that. So anyway, stay tuned for more on that, guys, with Nutrisite.
So, Bill, what are the market implications of this?
Lots of market implications, right? Because think about it for a second. If we just use Nutrisite as the example, if we move more and more to the right on that spectrum, what's going to happen? What's going to happen is that, first of all, I'm just going to be very transparent about it. We have too many products on the market in the U.S., over 100,000 products. Most of them are just commodity type products and redundancy. There's a lot of redundancy. So that's going to have an impact, right? Because consumers are going to gravitate towards the ones that are, the products that are actually doing something for them, right? The consumer demand is going to grow for personalized wellness, so to speak.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a gap. There's a gap between the perceived personalization and real personalization. And as that gap narrows, because people become educated, because people have the tools to determine what's real and what's fake, a lot is going to change for this market. And personalized wellness is going to be part of our supplement industry, and it's going to change everything.
In my view, and where I see it going, is going to, especially if you look at where we're going and more companies doing research on their products as a whole, it's going to change the whole dynamic landscape. But Nutrisite's just going to accelerate that, because we're just going to empower consumers to make the right choices for them. And that's going to make the changes for the product brands to either pivot and do the science and elevate themselves, or, they're going to be left by the side. So for me, the days of marketing hype, jargon, and the bad actors and all that, their days are numbered, really, because it means the industry is going to evolve and become more and more sophisticated and really based on the science. So again, whatever is, if we're going to move from that spectrum from the left to right, that's what has to happen, right?
Well, yeah. And right now we have a situation that exists where there's a lot of overpromising of results you're going to get. Oftentimes sensationalistic promises that are made without a shred of evidence. And when somebody buys into this, starts using a product just to discover that it didn't do anything, and it erodes trust. And now it's going to flip things, where now you can lead with actual evidence. Right. And, listen, there's no guarantee that any given product is going to work for any given person for sure. But we can improve the odds. We can improve the likelihood if we lead with evidence, if we lead with products that actually have science behind them. And if we are using, true personalized nutrition, which isn't the case most of the time. So we get as close as we can to that. Yeah. And it's a process. It's moving there. Yeah.
It's a process, and it's an evolution. We're moving on that spectrum, right? And this is a good thing. This is the natural.
Well, it is a good thing, and it's not just. It's not just, guys, the bad actors, it's going to be bad for them, blah, blah, blah. That's true. But the thing is, there's a huge opportunity here for innovation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Brands are going to have a huge opportunity. People who formulate for brands, who formulate for whether they're retail brands or professional brands, clinicians, huge opportunity to move towards true personalization. And so I think that is something that we need to keep in mind.
Yeah. In fact, I even envision that right now Nutriselect will work with all the wearable devices out there, whether it's Oura Ring, Fitbit, Garmin, whatever. it'll be integrated to work with any of those. In fact, I can envision, this is really down the road, but I can envision us having our own wearable for NutriSelect, maybe that does some real-time biomarker integration or something.
Wouldn't
like
that be nice?
Wouldn't that be cool?
That'd be very cool.
That it does that, and I like the concept of the ring, by the way.
I do too. Really, I would not have guessed.
I got room here.
Yeah, you got a couple of spare fingers you should be able to put.
I do. But again, so again, we're gonna look. It's moving this direction already. With if you look at the CROs out there, they're really the new ones the new kids on the block of Radical and the Lithios. These guys and other ones are People Science is another one. These guys are really leading the charge to really elevate evidence-based supplementation. And that's essentially what we're talking about here in the industry. It's something that's long, long overdue within our industry. And there was no push from any regulation or even being responsible as a product brand to jump on board and do that. I'd say the newer companies, the small to medium-sized companies, are the ones that see the vision of that and are actually trying to do that. They're forced into that because they don't have the marketing ad budget to compete with the bigger guys that are multi-million-dollar companies, right? To differentiate themselves. So how can they do it, right?
I just wanted to also mention Center for Applied Health Sciences in Ohio. They do a fantastic job as well. I've done a number of studies with them. Yeah,
and they've been around for a long time too. So, but they've moved and advanced with the changes in this.
They do, and they use all the biomarkers as well as the scientifically validated questionnaires, all of that stuff.
It's a little. I have some inside information here, Gene, and I've mentioned this before, but. When I worked with the M&A group at Sanofi for over 3 years, I was the subject matter expert. We were evaluating supplement companies in the U.S. market, which Sanofi didn't have a footprint. And we looked at dozens of brands. And we're talking multi-million-dollar, medium-sized companies that when we started doing our deep dive into the due diligence, it all looked good on the surface. When you pulled back the curtain, it turns out they didn't have much in the way of science.
Yeah, I see it all the time.
And I know we know it exists, but I have the insights, and I can't say who the brands are, but you would be shocked if I told you which brands.
You know what? I bet you I wouldn't be.
You probably wouldn't be shocked. That's true. But again, that's my point is that dynamic's going to change, right? And so what is called personalized nutrition today that's generalized is going to be truly personalized in the near future. It's already moving the needle down the spectrum there, and we're going to accelerate that with NutriSelect when we get launched next year for sure. Yeah.
So some key takeaways, some closing thoughts. I think that we want to cover. I think we made the point, but it bears repeating that not all personalized nutrition is created equal. It is a spectrum, and it falls somewhere along that spectrum line, hopefully more towards the right. But listen, any place that it's falling where you're actually getting some element of personalization is better than none.
Yeah. And all the science that's being done, like I said, in the research, we talked about that, and the advances in technology. I mean, I'm amazed by that. When I was running my CRO, I don't know, 12, 13 years ago, I had a nationwide contract with LabCorp in the U.S. where patients in my clinical studies would go there and get their blood draw, and then we would get the data from that. Well, like I said before, now you have all the test kits at home. So the technology is advancing incredibly fast. And we're going to see that integrated with wearables and more. And it's already happening right now. A lot of big companies are doing this in the wellness space. So again, those that are really going to succeed here, we're foretelling we're fortune tellers, Gene. We're telling the future here. We're telling you guys where it's going. You can choose to believe us or not, but the only companies that are going to succeed are those that are really going to balance innovation, evidence-based supplementation, and also they're going to build consumer trust at the same time. So that is where we're going, right?
That's right. So the companies that are going to succeed are going to be those that balance innovation, evidence, and consumer trust. And that's where personalized nutrition is going.
Yep, exactly. Cool. Any last thoughts, Gene, before we wrap it up here?
I just want to say that for those of you out there who are interested in personalized nutrition, who are interested in biohacking, good for you. You're looking at not just the future, you're looking at the here and now, what you can do. Keep that curiosity going. Keep that hunger for more information going. Keep studying, keep learning. We'll be right there with you, helping to provide you with some information to help you in that journey.
Yep. And if you haven't already, go get on the wait list for the NutriSelect app that's coming out next year. And also that gets you tied into the latest news that's happening as we progress. Earlier this week on Monday, Gene and I did the podcast and introduced the NutriSelect Brand Science Accelerator Program. We're already talking to companies to bring into that first cohort in the first year. And then a little preview, I'm going to be launching the Ingredient Science Accelerator Program because I've gotten approached by ingredient companies say, hey, can we participate in that? So this is cool because those companies are already thinking about the future of what we're talking about. And so stay tuned for more news about that because that is going to elevate the whole game of where we're going here. So, and with that, that's my closing comment, and I'll take us out of here, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Bioactive Nexus.
See you next time.
See you next time.